All right, what are you doing now, Dave?
What? You just wait a damn minute. I gotta get this butter. That microwave is 1907. Well, today we're gonna make kolaches. And I'm gonna go through the recipe briefly. The items that you need is 3 packages of dry yeast, half a cup of warm water at 105 degrees. And these temperatures are very important so you don't kill the yeast. 1 teaspoon of sugar, 2 sticks of butter, 3/4 cup of sugar, 3 egg yolks, 2 3/4 cups of milk, warm, 105, 7 1/4 cups of flour, more or less, and 3 teaspoons of salt. And they put that 3 teaspoons of salt at the end of the recipe, which was stupid, because if you don't put those 3 teaspoons of salt in there, everything you've done, you might as well just walk away because it ain't gonna work. And because I know I've done it. But it's the last thing on the recipe, and you think you get all that other stuff in, and it should be the first, but it isn't. Well, my name's Dave Sukup, and I'm a brother to my sister. 78 years old. My wife, Barbara, we've been married 55 years. I have 3 sons that live in Kansas City. We moved from Manhattan, Kansas. We lived there for 38 years. And 3 years ago, because of COVID, we moved to Kansas City because we never seen our grandkids for 3 years. So we moved to Kansas City, and we're finding everything right now, and we're enjoying the good life. The kolaches, of course, my mom made kolaches, and my wife's mother, she is Czech in and out. She spoke Czech and she understood Czech, and she had a Czech recipe that was excellent. And we always wanted to have kolaches in our family, and finally one day I said, well, I'm just going to make some damn kolaches. I got this recipe. The reason I use this recipe, it's she's the Dorothy Bohawk. She's from Texas, and she was in the food department in Texas, and she's a Bohemian, of course, Bohawk. And she had this on the Texas website, Texas Monthly Recipes. And I figured, well, as smart as she is, it ought to be pretty good. So I printed it off, and it's pretty darn good. It's excellent. Makes good kolaches. So for starting, we've got 2 3/4 cups of milk here, and it had 2 sticks of butter, and it had to be warmed up to 105 degrees or until the butter was melted. And we've done that with a 1907 microwave, yes. And then we have to have 3 egg yolks. So I've separated the egg yolks, and that's where my 3 teaspoons of salt are. I know because I can see it. But it's very important that be put in there. So we're going to take this, and I like to use, this is cheating, I use heat pads wherever I can. And the reason is these bowls are pretty heavy. They're Ohio stock. They're the real heavy bowls, and I think they're great myself. But that will stay warm till we get the dough risen and everything. It'll cut down about an hour on your recipe by using a heat pad. And then we got another one over here that's heating up the yeast, and that'll cut down on your time. This is going to take about 3 hours. Of course, I don't know about all this stuff that we're talking about, how long that's going to take, but we'll be done by 4 o'clock today. So, and I got the milk and sugar, 3/4 cup sugar, and 2 sticks of butter. So I'm going to add that to the eggs that I've got in there. And if you get it too hot, you'll have scrambled eggs, and then that'll also piss you off, because then you ruined everything, got to start over. So kind of move that around a little bit. Okay, and I measured out 3 cups of flour in this sifter, and you always want to sift your flour because it will accept the liquid much better. So I'm going to start with sifting in 3 cups of flour. It's going to take 7 cups, here or there, a little bit more, a little bit less. It's the consistency of the dough is what you want. And I'll try to let everybody figure that one out. Kind of combine that a little bit. What you're doing is you're getting a mix of flour and milk and all of that stuff a little bit so we can add the yeast, which is, we're gonna add that in just a little bit. And this is pretty easy stirring. When we get up to 5, 6 cups of flour in there, it gets pretty tough sledding. So I'll use my mixer. Since I'm old enough that I could use a mixer, I'll use it to... Hey, you got a spatula over there? I need one. Sorry.
This kind?
No. Yeah, that's what, just can't get good help these days. A rubber spatula. You got a rubber spatula? Okay, now we're going to start mixing that yeast in. You use 3 packages of yeast, and you put in 1 teaspoon of sugar in with the water. You use a half a cup of water, and you stir it, and you want to get that yeast started just a little bit with that sugar. It'll make it start working, and the more it's working, the better off your kolaches will be, and they'll raise much faster and all that stuff.
How many times do you make kolaches a year, Uncle Dave?
Oh, I suspect probably, well, let me qualify that. We use the kolach dough in our runza recipe also. So I probably make it 10, 12 times a year. But the actual kolach is probably 6 times. 3 kids, they know where my freezer is, and hell, they just go in and get a dozen and a half whenever they want to. And they're $14 a dozen in verdigris, but they never leave anything in by the freezer. I should put a can down there. Maybe they. But that's what they like. They can just go get kolaches whenever they want.
Ah.
So I put 3 cups of flour in, and here's 2 more. We're going to put a little bit of that in there. Now, since I'm over 75, I can use this egg beater. I blame that on too damn many birthdays. I've had quite a few, and things kind of catch up with you a little bit. But this makes damn good kolaches when you do this, because it gets that flour, the elasticity. Did you hear that? Elasticity, that's a big word for a Bohemian. Elasticity is, it wakes up the flour and gets everything, and it mixes the yeast in there also. Now you're going to have to, when I get this dough done, we're going to have to wait about an hour for it to raise, and I don't know if you want to be running that camera and all that stuff for the next hour, because
we're just going to watch the dough rise.
People would probably start lying or something. I got out of the Army in, let's see what that was, December 67, and I didn't have a job, and so they sent me to Grand Island. When we went through the pay line, they said, well, you live in Nebraska, you can go make bombs. So I went to Grand Island, and I lived there about 1.5 years, and I made bombs, 2,000-pound bombs. That was big devils.
Wow.
And that was interesting in itself, and that's kind of what got me started into cannons a little bit. But that's another story. But yes, I made bombs for about 2 years.
Do you know how to defuse a bomb?
No, I sure as hell don't. I can sure put them together.
It's half
And I know what goes in them too. People don't know it, but powdered aluminum is one of the most explosive things there is. Anyway, it's quite a process. I won't talk about it too much here, but. And then I was in Omaha. My brother lived in Omaha,
Which brother?
Daniel, and he worked at Boys Town. He was kind of the head of the dairy, and he asked me if I wanted to come milk cows, and well, I said it sure as hell make be playing with teats every day is more fun than making bombs. So we decided to move to Omaha, and that's when my wife and I got married also. But yes, I worked there for about 3 years, and then the veterinarian there that was at Boys Town, he had some land down in Kansas, and he asked me if I'd be interested in moving to Kansas and raise pigs on a farm down there, and we would go into partnership. And it sounded like it was a pretty good deal. So I went down there, and we was raising about 3,000 hogs a year. And things were going good. I was farrowing 60 sows twice a year. And everything was going along real good. We was on 160 acres. And he decided that he wanted to put irrigation in. And he thought old Dave should pay for half of that. And I said, well, this is your farm, and you want me to put half the irrigation system in, since we were on halves on everything. I said, well, then you need to give me half the farm. And that didn't go over either, so we parted ways, and we got the local newspaper, and they were looking for a cow tester up in Marshall County. And I went up and visited with those people one Sunday afternoon. That's where I spent 30-some years of my life testing cows.
What does a cow tester do?
Cow tester drives to the farm, and during when they milk the cows, and we had meters that we hung up in the barn, and we would weigh the milk, and take samples of the milk, and then have them tested for butterfat and protein, and telling the farm, we ran them through a computer in Iowa State, and we ran it through a computer, all the information, and then they would get a printout. And that was going real good, and that was about the time when computers got kind of wild, and everybody thought they needed a computer. And at that same time, the lab manager in Manhattan died, and they tagged me to go down and run that lab, but also to convert that milk testing lab, which is all done by hand. There was 8 people in there testing samples and stuff, and they tagged me with taking that lab and making it electronic lab. And I did that, and when we were testing 30,000 samples, no, 300,000 samples at the end of when I retired, and we had 3 people were running that lab and testing that many samples. That was a big savings. But then we lived in Manhattan for 38 years, and then we moved to Kansas City. So that kind of where everything went. Now let's come on, a couple of you boys over here, come over here and hold that up, and you can just hold that to the camera so they can see the dough, and that's about ready to raise. But yeah, get it into a nice round ball, and then you get your hand all greasy, pour a little oil on them, like you're getting ready to wash dishes. And then you want to coat that dough with oil, and it will raise and it'll keep from drying out the dough and everything. Boy, I hope we don't have nothing left here that's supposed to go in there, but we're all right. Okay, that's as far as we can go right now. I guess we can talk about the fillings while this is raising. I like to put a bath towel on it. It keeps all the air in there. Go ahead and throw a clock on it. That's what time is it? In about an hour it should be ready. I see we got a pair of people walked in over there. Oh, that's Michael. I'm looking at that mirror and I thought they're in the other room. No, hell, he's right here. This is my youngest son, Mike, and their little boy, Nolan, and Stephanie is over here, and they're gonna have a little baby on my birthday, a little girl.
Aww.
February 14th.
Congratulations.
So, but they showed up to watch this, as if he hasn't seen it. Lefty got the tooling leather tools from Grandpa after he died, and Judy had them in the basement there, and Stephen, he's been tooling for quite some time, and he got a hold of those tools, and so he's continuing on with the tooling business. But my dad made this belt, he made me another belt, and he made me a billfold. This is, matter of fact, I just dug this out the other day because the other one I wore, I've had it for about 40 years, and it was starting to come apart. And I had this in the drawer, and I said, well, hell, I'm just gonna wear that. So that's, it's still giving us some time.
And I looked at Bob Dad after Dad lost his leg.
Yeah, when my dad lost his leg, Lefty, he taught my dad how to do and my mom, she helped him a lot with it, so, but they did a great job. Okay, a little bit about the stuff. We've got 3, and there's papers around here with recipes on them. Apricot and cherry and blueberry is what we're gonna make today for Kolaches. And then we got a can of poppy seed. Usually, I used to buy poppy seed, but it's hard to find and it's expensive. I got a poppy seed grinder that I bought it in Texas, but it's the old poppy seed grinder itself. And Barbara used to grind it for me, but we was having a hard time. We used to get the poppy seed from Verdigris. We'd go to Verdigris, which is where my wife grew up, and that's where Barbara's mother lived, and that's a Czech town. And they know all about poppy seeds and Kolaches and everything. And I used to buy it up there when we went up to the grocery store, but we don't go up there anymore, so we decided to go this route and use the Solo brand poppy seed. It's all right, but it's not as good as the kind you grind up. Blueberry and the cherry, you take a can of pie filling, and then the cherries, I drain off a jar of maraschino cherries, and then I grind up the maraschino cherries and I add it to the pie filling. And the same with the blueberries, I take blueberry pie filling and I took a pint of blueberries and I ground them up and added it to the pie filling. And then you have to cook it for a little bit, and after it's starting to boil and everything and cooking it, then I add about 2 teaspoons of cornstarch to thicken it up. Because if you don't thicken it up, when it gets in that 375-degree oven, that stuff, it just bubbles out and you got a mess. So that stops it from coming out. The apricots are just dried apricots. You have to boil them about an hour, and then grind them up in a food processor and add a little bit of sugar to them. This is poofski, and that's the topping that you put on the kolaches. When you see a kolach, you got that little white stuff on top. That's poofski, and you use about a quarter of a cup of butter. You slice it when it's cold, and then you take about a little more than a fourth of a cup of sugar, and you mix that butter in with the sugar so it's kind of granulars. And then you add a fourth of a cup of flour to that after you get it into a granular. And it makes a very, very flavorful. When that bakes in the oven for 17 minutes, why, it makes a nice flavor on the top of that kolach. And then when we get to the dough, this is what I use. This is just a donut cutter. And you'll see my board, how thick you want the dough. And I've had this a long time. And that's what I use to cut the kolaches out with. Then after we get them onto the baking sheets, we use this Italian seasoning jar, and you have to take a knife and cut there's seams on top here. You have to cut them off so it doesn't leave streaks in your dough and stuff. So I got them smoothed off real nice, and then you put a lot of pressure right in the middle of that dough for a place for the fillings to go in there. So you'll see all that in just a little bit. That's all I've got for right now until this dough. We don't have a speeded up dough raiser, so. The farm was about 15 miles west of Creighton, 14 miles southwest of Verdigris. And we had dairy cows. We milked about 35 cows. Started off milking them by hand, and then we had sows, fat pigs, we had fat cattle. We had about 125 beef cows, and they had calves. We had them on pasture. I mean, we had to do the rodeo, and the whole year was taking care of livestock and moving cattle and riding horses, and I mean, it was just cat and meow. Yeah, we had corn and milo and soybeans, oats, and I can remember when my dad used to thrash. I mean, that's going back to, we've seen a hell of a lot in our lifetime. I mean, like the telephones, we had the old crank telephones and put batteries in them every 2 weeks.
Party lines?
Party line, yeah, you had ours that was long and too short.
Long and too short.
And you'd answer it if it was your ring, but hell, if it was a neighbor, you want to know what they was doing, you'd answer it too. I mean, you didn't answer it, you just pick it up and listen and be real quiet, you know. I mean, everybody knew everything because that's just the way it was. But then we went to the rotary dial phone, and incidentally, my wife's dad, he was the head of the Union Telephone Company in that area. And so he came around and he put in all of these telephones and stuff and fixed them. And he was a tremendous person that he knew his stuff inside and out. That was another thing, he was always kind of mean to me, I don't know why, but them old crank telephones, you can take 2 wires and put it on the magnets, and you can tell somebody to hold on to them and you crank it, and it just shock the shit out of you. I mean, you just sat there and your hands would just be going like that, and he was laughing. But he used to do that to us, and then oh gosh, in later years, where's Mike? Mike?
He stepped outside.
Do you remember when we took them fishing? We found out that if you took those fishing and you had about 25 foot of wire, you could throw 1 wire in the pond or river, and then one on the other side, you'd pick a big tree trunk that's in the river, and you throw them out there and start cranking, and them fat catfish, they would float to the top, and you'd take a pitchfork and stick them to pitch them out on the, I mean, we'd get 35 pounders, I mean, just regular big fish.
Huh?
And I mean, that was more fun than, but that was just growing up on the farm. You're always having fun. It was fun for us. I enjoyed that more than anything, I think. But I hated milking. Jesus Christ, we had to get up 4 o'clock. And Dad wanted the cow's milk before we went to school because he couldn't do all the work. So, but yeah, we grew up. We had a good time, great time on the farm. It was that was an excellent learning experience. Boy, Tom Schulte and Daniel, we always had the horses around the house. We kept them in the barn, and we always fed them oats every day. And, well, they decided that they would drive the horses in the barn, and then Judy would chase them out, and Daniel and Tom Schulte would stand out there with slingshots, and they'd shoot those horses in the butt. And that stung, and Dad happened to come down the driveway. I was in the pickup with him. And man, he just gripped the wheel and he was upset. But he took those slingshots and he gave each one of them a damn spanking. I don't know, Judy, did you get a spanking out of it? Huh?
Every other hit.
Every other hit?
Well, no, Tom got a hit, and then the next step, Dan got it, and the next step, Tom got it.
And all the time, I was sitting in the pickup just laughing my ass off. But I was lucky enough that I was with him, so I wasn't involved in that deal. In the winter of, oh gosh, was that 51 and 52, we had that lot of snow.
Yeah.
I mean, we had snow ass deep to a 10-foot Indian. The telephone poles were even covered with snow. And the roads had just a one-way track, and there was 10, 12-foot drifts on the sides of the roads. Well, all our cattle, we couldn't get hay to them, so we had our cousin, Leo Sukup, he had a Caterpillar. And he would take that Caterpillar and we'd push hay down the middle of the road, right on the middle of the road with that Caterpillar, so we got some hay around there to feed the cattle. But that was and we missed a lot of days of school.
Well, the airplane came and got rained in.
Yeah.
We had snow.
But that was a big deal.
Wow.
We had 2,000 chickens, and we milked those 30 cows. And they couldn't get out to pick up the eggs and the cream for probably 3 weeks.
Oh.
And we had every day we was getting 1,500 eggs. And we had eggs in the basement everywhere. And we kept all the cream because you can still make butter with cream even if it's sour. But we had 10-gallon cans of cream, and that was quite a deal too. But they took all the eggs too because we just saved them in 5-gallon buckets, and they brought egg cases out and we filled them up. We could put 360 eggs in a case.
Wow. That worked?
Yeah, that worked. They got a big check on that deal. Because we couldn't go to town and we didn't need anything because Mom canned all the food and stuff. And we could live out there for 6 months if we had to. And we had milk from the cows, and we always butchered our own beef and hogs. So we had everything that we needed. But boy, when that was nice when we got to go to town though. And I can remember when Dad, the old thrashing machines went out in the early 50s, and Dad, he was the head guy in our neighborhood that he owned the thrashing machine and the M tractor that ran the thrashing machine. And they would pair up and everybody helped everybody do their thrashing. They would shock the oats and everything, and then they would go from place to place thrashing all their oats for them. And of course, Mom and the ladies had to cook for all those guys. You know, there was like 10, 15 guys on a crew. They all had teams of horses, and that's what they hauled the bundles with, and then a wagon and teams of horses pulled the grain back to the farm, and yeah, that was a big deal. And then not in 1952 or 3, we got the first combine.
Oh,
Alice Chalmers, 5 foot.
oh wow.
And we were in hog's heaven. I'll tell you, Dad, he was gonna go out and combine his oats and not have to shock them, and had an old Ford tractor that he put on it. The combine itself had a self-propelled, it had a Alice Chalmers WD-45 engine mounted to the combine. And that's what ran the combine, and he just used the tractor to pull it around.
Ah.
But that was interesting also. I mean, we seen a lot of improvements on the farm from the time we lived there until we left. And now, you know, you buy a combine, they're $350,000, and they got a 30-foot header on them. Yeah, it's amazing what the farmers do to feed America. And most Americans don't even have a clue of where in the hell this stuff comes from and how it happens.
Yep.
All they do is piss and moan about the price of bread.
Yep.
And the farmer gets about a fourth of what they should be getting for what they do.
So-
Yeah, it's been an interesting life. Well, I got drafted. That was the middle of Vietnam, and they needed every able-bodied person they could find. I actually went down for my physical when I was a senior in high school. February the 15th or 16th, after my 18th birthday, I got a draft notice that I had to go down and take my physical. Of course, Daniel, 5, 6 years before that, he went down and took his physical, and they 4F'd him because he's colorblind. 4F, you'll never have to serve.
Ah.
You weren't fit for service. And hell, I thought, well, this is gonna be a piece of cake. I'll go down there and I'll be back home here in a couple of days. And I got down there, and that guy, he showed me he says, what do you see? I said, I don't see a damn thing. I said, I'm colorblind. And he said, oh, that's all right. You'll be all right. By God, I went right down the line just like all of them. We all passed the test. I had to get a deferment because Dad was on the farm and he had one leg. He lost a leg, and we had to get him moved to town before I left. So I got a deferment till January the 1st of '65. So we got Dad moved. We had a farm sale. Raymond moved in where Dad lived, and Dad moved to Creighton, and he wanted me to paint the whole damn house, and while I was there, so that's what I got stuck doing. But I painted upstairs and downstairs and everything. And January 5th, I had to go to Omaha, and I had to take a bus. And Dad took me up and put me on a bus and give me a $20 bill, and that's the way I went to the Army.
Wow.
And I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for basic training, and my first paycheck was $19. That's a month. And then at the end of the pay line, they paid you in cash, and at the end of the pay line, there was the Red Cross and about 3 organizations that you had to donate to.
Oh.
And it was a mandatory donation. And I ended up with about $18.50. But cigarettes were 25 cents. And I mean, it was
And you served overseas, or you didn't?
I did. I went into the Army, and I went to school in Chicago, and I was a veterinary food inspector.
A colorblind.
Colorblind food inspector. And that worked out all right. That makes a different story. Honest to God. Raymond, he was in '55, and he went to veterinary food inspection school too. And it was in Chicago on Pershing Road, is where the school was. And there was a bar just a block down and to the left a little bit.
Surely you've never been to a bar.
Oh, I just went down with those other guys so they'd get home.
That was his ride.
But I went up there and we got organized and took us a few days or so to get down to the bar. I went down to the bar and we all ordered a beer. And that lady said, well, how old are you? And I said, well, I'm just gonna be 19. She said, oh, you're all right. She says, you're in the military. So we got to drinking a little bit there, and she says, you look familiar. She says, do you have a brother? Was he in the military? I says, yeah, back in 1955, 56. His name was Ray. And she reached behind the bar and she had a picture of him.
Oh,
Bigger
wow.
than she.
Wow.
And she said, well, he used to date my daughter. I said, whoa. I said, where's this going? But she says, he was a wonderful person. But he graduated and he went to Omaha. And when I graduated from vet school, I went to France. And I was in Ingrons, France for the first 10, 11 months, and that's when de Gaulle kicked us out of France. And I had to go to Germany. Wow, and that's another story. I had to go to the airport in Paris. I was going to Vietnam, and my clothes all went to Vietnam and everything. All I had was just 2 pairs of Army uniforms, and that was it. Everything went to Vietnam. And I got on the plane, and just as we was getting ready to take off, this colonel come on the plane, and he said, Sukup. I said, yes, sir, right here. He said, come with me. I said, oh, shit, now what? And he got me up the front of the plane. He says, well, he says, you got a choice. He says, you're too short to go to Vietnam. He says, you got to re-up for 6 months or get off of the plane, and we're going to send your ass to Germany. I said, well, that sounds like a real good deal. And they sent me to Germany, Würzburg. It took us quite a while to get to Germany because I had to hook up with another unit, and they give us pistols to leave France because the French people were jerks. I mean to tell you, they wanted us out of there so bad, and we left millions of dollars worth of stuff that we buried. Tires, and I mean the government is just terrible at this. But they couldn't ship anything out. I shipped all the sea rations. We had like 300 million sea rations that we sent to Vietnam. And we had them on my base, and I had to go up to Saint Nazaire, France, and load them on a ship, and then they were going to Vietnam. Well, I was supposed to be in Vietnam to accept them off the ship. So they had to figure out something there. Let's see, look at this. Ain't that cute?
You want to show, is it starting?
No, I'm not going to show it to anybody
Not yet?
because I can't pick it up. But it's starting to raise. We're getting close here.
Okay.
But anyway, I went to Saint Nazaire, France, and I sent them sea rations to Vietnam. And that took about 3 weeks to get all of them things loaded on a ship and send them over there. But I went to Germany. That was a good deal too. I liked that over there. I got hooked up with an old farmer there. He worked in a pool, motor pool. And they issued me a Jeep for this captain that I was supposed to shuffle him around. Well, they just let me have it all the time. I put a radio in it and everything. And this old farmer, he was in the motor pool. He would change oil in it for me. And one day, he couldn't speak any English, and I couldn't speak any German. And I says, do you have a farm? I said, where you drive horses and pitch manure? And, yeah. He says, you come out. He says, come out on weekends. We get together. And I'd go out there on weekends and I'd help him with hay and stuff. And he just loved that. I mean, he absolutely thought that I was a cat's meow. And his wife would cook for us German food. Oh, hell, that was a good deal.
Like home.
But in France, or in Germany, I inspected mess halls, and there was like Weilflecken, that's right up on the East German border. Up in Weilflecken, I went up there one October, and they got a damn blizzard up there. We got snowed in for about 4 days. They got like 4 foot of snow. And we weren't too far from the East German border, the wires, you know.
Yeah.
And we'd meet the East Germans over there, and we'd give them cigarettes because they couldn't have a hard time getting cigarettes, and they'd shuffle money through us to us. And that's how we traded with the East Germans.
Wow.
I'll probably go to jail for that, but I think we could have settled everything in this world really quick right there. Because
Yep.
those people, they didn't want to be doing what they were doing, but anyway, so much for that. Had met Barbara in 67.
Huh?
I come back I got an early out. I was supposed to stay in the army until January 4th. And they called it, I was over in Germany, and they called it a Merry Christmas Santa Claus, which was, we'd get out like December the 6th or 7th, and we'd get to come back for Christmas and everything from the army. I flew into Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I was there 3 days and slept on a damn cot. No blankets or anything. We just slept on a cot. And then one morning they woke us up and said, okay, we're gonna go get paid. And we all went to the paymaster, and he paid us in cash, and they just said, okay, see you later. They didn't give us a bus ride or a damn thing. We had to get a cab to get to the airport. And the military really, they can really drop the ball sometimes. But we got there, and on the plane way back to Omaha, they had drinks on there because there was quite a few military boys, and we was getting them for half price. And we took advantage of that. But I flew into Omaha, and Judy and Lefty and Mom and Dad, they met me at the airport. And while I was in the military, I sent cash home to Mom and told her to put it in the bank that I wanted Dad to go buy me a new car. And he bought me let's see, what year was that? That was in '80. But he bought me a white Bel Air Chevrolet. Paid cash for it from Hank Klupnik.
Oh.
And he filled it up with gas, but it was, the price of it was still under. I had to pay for the gas.
Aw. How much did he pay for it? Do you know?
$3,200.
Brand new.
Brand new.
Wow.
1967.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And the white one, that's the one we got married in. And
Yeah. What
that's
year did you
the-
get married?
Huh?
What year did you
We
get
got
married?
married in '69.
Okay.
And that's when they used black shoe polish on my white 19 Chevrolet, and they put big married across, get married or just married across the trunk with black shoe polish. And I wore that on that car for ever as long as I owned it.
It didn't come off.
Huh?
It wouldn't come off.
It would not come on. And then they took the coil wire. Of course, nobody knows what a coil wire is. They don't have them on cars now, but it's a coil wire that comes from your battery to the spark plugs and gets electricity or juice to the engine. And Barbara's brother took my coil wire, and I was stranded.
Uh-oh.
Don't go nowhere.
Remember when
First
you-
date, I picked Barbara up off the street in Verdigris with a 6-pack of beer.
Oh.
I asked her if she was out walking her way home, and I said, how about it? Would you like a ride? I said, I'll give you a beer on the way home. And by golly, we're still married yet.
Must have been some good beer.
It was Schlitz. That's about all they had. I think it was like $1.29 a 6-pack.
Oh, wow.
But, yep, we've been married 55 years.
Con-
We traveled a lot.
Oh.
We traveled, I mean, we was we've been everywhere together. And
Yeah.
thank God we did when we did, because 2012 she went blind. And it really cut into her, but she's wonderful. She's, I think, handling it better than I would. I'd be a sorry, sour old fart.
Well, Barbara is so sweet.
She
That's
is.
why.
She is. And she says, oh hell, I don't have to come this morning. She says, I've seen you make collages dozens of times. She says, I'll go over in the afternoon. So we went to all over the United States. There's no like Yellowstone and Great Falls, Montana, and we went to Calgary, to Lake Louise in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
That was an awesome sight.
Is that where Banff is?
That's Banff. We
Oh,
stayed
yeah.
in Banff.
Yes.
But we went to Lake Louise that morning about 10 o'clock, and there was no wind. And that lake, honest to God, was a piece of glass. It was just emerald green, piece of glass, and people whispered because it was so breathtaking. I've never seen anything so beautiful in all my life. And then after we got there about 10:20 or so, and then there was a place at this big hotel. They got a huge 6-story hotel up there. They built it back in the 1900s, but we sat out on that veranda and we had lunch out there overlooking that lake. So
I can see it right in your eyes. There's a twinkle in your eye, Uncle David.
it was good. Look at that.
Wow.
All right, we got about,
Yeah, we're ready. How much was it?
that was
30 minutes?
How much?
30.
30? Wow, this is a
You put
record.
too much yeast in, Dave.
Nah, I'm fine. Cutting board here. It never gets in the water. I never wash this thing because soap and water does not do a cutting board justice. So it's always handled very carefully. I've got 2 pieces of wood on each side nailed on. It's about 3/16.
do it sideways so we can see those boards.
You can't,
There you go, like that. Yep,
can you see that?
you can see it
But
better.
they're about 3/16. And when you take a real fancy piece of PVC pipe, this is my rolling pin, and when you roll that, your dough is going to be perfect every time. 3/16. So that's how I do business. I'm going to slice right down through there. Boy, this is really nice. I say there's a pretty good chance I did this before. And we're going to get about 6 dozen off of this recipe. And if you get more than that, you didn't cut them big enough, and you can get less than that, you cut them too damn big. And you go around and you cut a batch of them. I need some of them pans over here, ladies. All the help's back here talking and they're not getting anything done.
Where you need this, Chef Dave?
Just hold it right there.
Dee Dee, tilt it a little so we can see them.
Kind of deep one there.
Nice.
So can I tell a story about what Dave did to my car at my wedding with all this flour?
Now we
Yeah,
know
since
why
I
we
told
did
the
it.
story of what they did to my car, so yeah, well that's fair.
So
So we
Go put those on that hot pad over there so they're
Okay.
getting warm.
we get married and we go to our car and we had a little, I don't know, it was 1987 Ford Escort or something. Manual, it was all we could afford, Steve and I. And him, And Dan and Ray, although Dan says
Yeah.
he didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, now, he can say that, but I was there and I know what happened.
And they put, I swear they took the whole 5-pound bag of flour and a box of Rice Krispies and they threw it up in the vent of our car. So when we went 106 degrees on July 16th, 1988, we go driving down the road to go to the reception and there's Rice Krispie pinging up in our face and flour. And I don't know what else they put peanut butter underneath the handles.
Oh, no, we didn't.
Yes, you did.
Well, see, they did that on their slot. I didn't know about that at all.
Yeah, it was a mess. And then I think my brother Doug, and he figured out a mess and he tried to get his friends to come up and clean it and they wouldn't touch it. So then, what did I send you for Christmas?
I don't remember. That's been a long time ago.
I sent you a Christmas card with flour and Rice Krispies in it.
Oh, did you? I never got that. I don't
Oh,
know.
yes, you did. And then my poor dad and my father-in-law Larry cleaned that card the next day before we left for our honeymoon.
Well, that was nice of them.
So you just like cookies. You just use all the dough, re-roll it.
Yep.
Okay.
Kind of makes a big happy family. At the weddings, I don't know, Raymond, he got married and that was February 27th. It was colder than hell. And he had a 58 Chevy. I don't know if you remember the hubcaps on a 58 Chevy. They were
Like a
kind
mirror?
of, they're about that big and then they kind of stuck out. Well, me and Daniel, we kind of did that one together, but we went and put, believe it or not, we went ice fishing. And we got some fish. Over at Albert Sukup's farm, there was a pond, that's where Raymond lived. And there was a pond over there. We knew it had bluegills in because we used to go fishing over there. And we cut a hole in the ice and went over there, colder than Billy hell. We went ice fishing and caught about 6 or 8 bluegills. They were about that long. We took them home and we kept them froze. And then when he got married, we took these hubcaps off and we put those fish in there. And they were froze. And everything was good until about the 1st of March or April, they started stinking. And the dogs would all come up to his car and they would go to the hubcaps and they were smelling around. And he couldn't figure out what the heck was the matter. Danny and I, we'd laugh whenever the dogs did that. Finally he took the hubcaps off and all that fish and dead fish and guts and stuff come out. And he never forgave us for that either. I need another pan. Look at that damn fly, see that?
I see that.
I hate flies.
What was that you just said, oil? Maybe you need to tell the audience what you have to do.
Oh yeah, you gotta put a little, I use canola oil right here.
We need 2 more here.
Okay. So what was we talking about when you?
Flies. Nobody likes
Well,
flies.
Yeah, that's what.
Horses don't like flies.
Huh?
Oh, hubcaps.
Hubcaps, yes. Anyway, Raymond, when he seen that, he knew who did it. And it took him a long time. You can go in for a minute.
This one's good?
Well, no, I've got another row to put on there, but it took him a long time to forgive us on that. But he got even.
Oh. Share.
Yeah. And that, that kind of, back in the day, in the 50s and 40s and 50s, everybody got chivaried when they got married. When they went to their, after 2 or 3 weeks after the wedding, why all the neighbors would get together and they would take beer and everything, and then they'd go to their house and just do all kinds of mean shit to them.
Oh.
turn the horses out and turn the cows out in the pasture, and you know, it was just that was kind of it was a chivalry. That's exactly what they did. That was how it happened. I don't know, maybe you guys don't talk about stuff like that, but I need some more there. But everybody got chivalried when they got married.
Okay.
Hike your skirt up a little there, lady.
That's right.
How did Ray get you back?
Oh, through the years, he always did stuff to me.
Yeah?
But I loved him. Raymond, he was a tough guy. I can remember we was putting hay for somebody had an accident, and we was putting up hay for somebody. I think it was one of the Burkharts or something, that their hay needed to be put up, and he was in the hospital or something, and I was with Raymond. We was over there stacking hay, and Ray, he was in the stack, and of course when you stack hay, you had to start a mound and then keep building it up until it was about 20 foot up in the air. And Gordon Burkhart, he was kind of old. Anybody related to the Burkharts around here? You gotta be careful.
We're aware of.
Huh?
Not that we're aware of.
Raymond was in the stack, and he was about 20 foot up in the air, and it was dirty pool with the stacker. You'd drive up to the stack and then take the hay and you'd push it off and then push the guy off and laugh. And he pushed Raymond on. And he took the 3-tine pitchfork with him, and he walked back there to that tractor, and he stuck that 3-tine pitchfork in the back of that tractor on the drawbar. And he says, "You son of a bitch, if you ever do this to me again," he says, "I'll kill you." And that guy, he didn't know what to do. And I never seen Raymond so mad in all my life, and I think he would. But God bless you, Ray. Telling stories on you, but I remember that so well.
All right. So how many you got back there so far?
I don't know, let's ask them.
You guys got
Got one little,
4 dozen?
Yeah, I'll be about right. I'm gonna have about
this
6.
one, one more.
Yeah, that's just gonna be about right. I want 60. They bake 17 minutes per pan, but you put them in the oven for 9 minutes, and then you turn the pan around after 9 minutes, and then you bake them, turn the pan in the oven, so they're baked evenly.
Gotcha.
Oh, I put a lot of love in these babies.
So have you put anything other than fruit into the Kolache?
No, it's all fruit.
All fruit.
These people that put bacon in them and sausage and them ain't Kolaches. They're just, that's what goes into a damn runza. And strawberries are good. I made them with strawberries. Peaches, I made them with peaches.
How about a lemon cream?
No, haven't done lemon cream. I do cottage cheese. That's good.
Yeah.
Cream cheese
Cream cheese.
with a little cinnamon, and that's pretty good.
Hey, so we got one last question for you. I need you to be honest on this one, Uncle
Uh-oh.
David.
You think I've been lying?
No, just
Oh,
want to keep your streak going. We would like to know the origins and the proper way to apply a wet willy.
A wet willy. Hell, I don't know anything about that.
Oh.
That's Judy. Where's you?
See the look you get right now.
You started the wet willy shit. Actually, I think Raymond started it.
He
I did.
can't defend himself.
Huh?
He can't defend himself.
Well, I know, but I can't help that. He's the one that.
All right, tell us about it.
Judy, tell us, how did the wet willy get started?
We'll have to demonstrate when you're done with the dough.
David, how long do the kolaches last in the freezer?
Oh, 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I put them in Ziploc bags, so yeah, It'll last quite a while. What are you doing? You got smell-o-vision? You want to feel this? I'll start with these right here. These are.
Want to get rid of a couple ones?
You go around and you make them nice and round. Nothing worse than a damn oblong collage. Barbara, my wife, she can tell when they put them in a square pan and they're put in there too close and then they ended up being square. That's Wilbur does that.
Wilbur does that.
All
yep.
collages you get out of Wilbur, they'll be square because they put them in a 9 by 13 pan. Then you take this cute little Italian seasoning thing and you make a nice indentation. Now we put probably a teaspoon and a half of filling in a collage. In, let's see, David City, we went to a sale up there and we bought a collage. Hell, they're supposed to be bohemians too. Well, they take a piece of dough and they roll it up like this, and all they do is stick their damn thumb in it, and that's where they put the filling. And then you can't get enough for anything. I was so disappointed that day. Hell, I give $1.50 for them collage and it wasn't no good.
Okay, so now how much are you putting in those?
Oh, it's probably 2 teaspoons full
Why not a tablespoon?
because it's too big on some of them. You just gotta kind of, each one is an individual. We don't just, like people, they try to stick everybody in the same hole and some of them are round people going into a square peg that don't work. So I just make them so they're full, and those are gonna be good collages. You got the ovens on? Turn the ovens on.
375.
Yep.
All right, so earlier you mentioned something about cannons. Tell us about your cannon collection.
Well, I had 4 of them at one time. I got started in that, well, it even goes back to Uncle Henry. Where's Judy?
I'm here.
You remember when Uncle Henry had that old mower shaft that he stuck in the ground out there, and then he'd put powder in it and shoot it off?
I do.
Okay, well, that's kind of where I got started from it. I thought, well, if I can just get me a round piece of pipe and weld the ends onto it, fill it up with powder and shoot it off. And it worked pretty good.
But didn't you get arrested for that?
Well, yeah, Barbara and I did. And when she retired, they had all 4 of them out there in front of the yard. And,
Neighbor was a cop.
huh?
The neighbor was a cop?
No,
He called the cop.
yeah. This good friend of ours, I told him now, I said, I met with him before with a party, and I said, now we want to make these fuses 1.5 inches shorter so that the first one went off and then the next one and then the next one and then the next one. And he didn't listen, and he put so damn much powder in them that it was blowing the limbs off the trees. It was horrible. I need my fork, just a minute. I gotta take a minute, just a half, where's my fork? You probably washed them and put my fork in there.
Here. I don't know, hopefully yours isn't.
Oh, what's he doing now? Let me
We're
see.
gonna put Poofsky on them. Now, set it for 9 minutes. At 9 minutes, you're gonna turn that around.
Okay.
What, you talk about the cannons now?
Yeah, talk about the cannons.
Okay, well, we used to use them quite frequently. At my wife's retirement party, those 4 cannons went off, and it blew a limb off of a tree that was in front of the cannons, kind of. and that limb is about that big around. And it broke that damn limb off of there completely. There was nothing in it, but just powder.
Oh,
But anyway, about 10 minutes later, here come the police. And they thought, oh boy, we got him now. And of course I went out there and I told him what we was doing. He says, you ain't shooting nothing, are you? I said, well, hell no. I said, we just put powder and toilet paper in them. I said, they sure do make a noise though. He says, yeah, we heard that. And after a few minutes, why, he cooled off, and I said, do you want to see us shoot again? No. And we had a big cake for my wife and ice cream and all that good stuff at a retirement party. And I said, would you like a cup of coffee and a piece of cake and ice cream? He said, well, yeah, that'd be good. And then they talked him into putting handcuffs on me and Barbara, like they was gonna carry us away. So he did that. And
We have a picture.
yeah, that's pictures. But that was quite a deal. And then another time, well, I think Mike was there. And we shot the cannon off and...
Yeah, you made me answer the door.
Yes. Well,
Terry,
The police came.
yes.
here, Terry, here.
Yeah, I remember that.
Here, don't
Mike,
let,
you need to
don't
answer the door.
What? What'd you say? And then the 4th of July, every morning I'd get up about 6 o'clock and I'd set one of those cannons out in front of the garage and I'd raise the flag, and then about 7 I'd fire that cannon off. And then I had a rope attached to the garage that when the garage door went down, it pulled this cannon back into the garage. And everybody come out and they figuring out what, that just big blue smoke in the air. And I got a kick out of that too. So I had a lot of fun with them cannons. Now the kids have all my cannons.
Now, I think, since I'm here, you should at least, you should talk about the incident in which you lost a few teeth.
Oh yeah, that. I used to have a real beautiful set of teeth.
In the front.
All over my whole mouth. And Mike, he was a pitcher and he was left-handed. And once in a while he'd throw one a little short. And one day after a game, well, no, it was just practice, I guess. And he was going to pitch the next night. And he wanted to know if I'd catch a few from him. And I said, well, yeah, I'll sneak over there. I was standing behind home plate. He threw 4 or 5 pitches. And everything was going good. And then all of a sudden he threw one and it hit the front of the home plate. And that damn thing came up and hit me right square in the mouth. And that, I'll tell you, I can still smell that ball today.
9 minutes. 9 minutes, got it.
You got the other one watched?
2 minutes, yep, I got 2 timers.
2 minutes?
2 minutes and then I'll switch them.
Okay. All right. Are they browning up? Oh, I thought you were going to use the other oven.
Well, I could use the other oven.
Well, it'd make more sense.
Okay, I'm gonna use the other oven, Uncle Dave.
Not trying to tell you what to do, but that's what I would do. It's hard to find good help these days. You can tell we didn't rehearse anything.
Finish the story.
What was the story?
On Mike's teeth.
Oh, well, after all these years, why,
That's why I was nervous about 440.
I just ended up with, I got 11 teeth left on the bottom, and when they go, I don't know what I'll do, but I get along pretty good. And I still ain't mad at Mike. I love you. Oh my God, it split my damn lip all the way down
You should have caught it.
and back here, and it was hanging down. I turned around and he was laughing.
Well, I wonder where you get that from.
I don't know. And he was, what, like 13, 12 or 13?
I was like 10 or 11.
10 or 11, and he drove me over to the hospital in the pickup. Because he'd been driving a little bit every now and then. You know, you gotta start them young when they're...
Now, the only other story I think you should tell is, I don't know if it was you, Steve, and Garrett, or just you and Garrett, when you guys went fishing, and when you guys lived in Greenleaf, and Mom might have been upset with you when you came
Oh,
home.
yeah, well, that was a different deal. See, we usually went to church on Saturday night. Well, this one night, we didn't get there. We had made a date to go down on the river and run some bank lines, and we went down there and about 5 in the morning, and we started floating down the river. And along about 7 o'clock, this real bad thunderstorm came up. And I mean to tell you, it was lightning and carrying on, and we went underneath these power lines, and lightning struck the power lines, and it went down straight into the water, just a big ball of fire. And I knew the good Lord was looking after us, because when we got home, my wife was so mad, and I didn't know if we was ever gonna go fishing again in our lives. Let's see, what we want, blueberry next? Now this is blueberry. Want to taste it? You want to taste?
Mmm.
You?
Me?
Yeah.
You want me to taste it?
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, no, I don't want to use that spoon you're using.
I'll use a different one.
Okay.
Ain't that pretty damn good?
Pretty damn good.
We'll just use that one again a little bit. People forget about that. Are those kolaches, are they getting brown? Somebody's got to melt this damn butter, because when they come out, you got to move this, you got to get this spread out.
Okay, I will.
All right, but you got to melt that butter and paint the kolaches when they come out of the oven.
Hot.
Hot, yes. Okay.
These are the cherries.
Okay, but paint the dough, because you don't want the dough to, well, don't be so damn tight, just slobber it around there. Do all of them that way.
Alright.
Otherwise, if you don't do that, they'll dry out and then they'll be yucky. Boy, those look wonderful. Well, this has been Baking with Dave. It's been fun. Somebody's got to taste one and tell them how good they are.
Okay, I'll do it.
Ah,
You need the other ear.
You gotta say, here's a wet willy.